Amazing twist, the inspiring food truck girl discarded by CEO revealed he hiddenly knew her. Mia wiped the sweat from her brow, the oppressive heat of the mid-afternoon sun blending with the steamy aroma wafting from her food truck, Mia's Mobile Eats. The endless clatter of utensils and laughter of customers surrounded her, a rhythmic symphony that had become her life since she took over the family business. Each day was a battle, a fight against the corporate giants lining the streets with their glitzy signs and mass-produced meals. It weighed on her, the relentless pressure to stand out and survive, and she couldn't shake off the feeling that she was shouting into the void, but today was different. Today, a cloud loomed over her culinary kingdom. The moment she spotted Greg Thompson, the celebrated CEO of Thompson Foods, striding towards her truck, her heart stopped. Tall, polished, with an air that screamed authority, he stopped in front of her window, a scrutinizing gaze locked on her menu. Was this a nightmare or a golden opportunity? She felt her pulse quicken, breath hitching with both excitement and dread. What could a man like him want with a humble food truck? His presence felt like the weight of destiny, and it was unbearable. Memories of his past visits twisted inside her, bitter, twisted memories of abandonment. His father led their family's fortunes while hers struggled to stay afloat. Could she still stand her ground? As he ordered her signature guacamole tacos, the weight of her family's recipe flashed in her mind. How they had nurtured her with love, pouring their hearts into every dish, sharing laughter and tradition at the kitchen table. But what would it all mean if his critique went viral? She felt raw and vulnerable, the fear of failure washing over her. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her gut churned as Greg took his first bite, his face flickering between contemplation and disdain. Suddenly, he cast the words like daggers, critiquing her beloved dish with rhetoric that stung more than any insult she had ever known. The internet erupted, a storm of opinions pouring in, with Mia at the eye. Doubt encased her heart as the feedback mixed with childhood memories, each one tied to these recipes, each bite tailor-made for comfort, becoming a source of humiliation. In the days that followed, despair coated every inch of Mia's Mobile Eats. As she thought of pulling the truck, a flicker of defiance sparked inside. Why should she extinguish her flame because he lit a firestorm? They should know her name, not just as a food truck but as the keeper of a culinary legacy. Yet, the cruel irony hung over her. She could feel a connection to him through the yoke of their history, unknowingly intertwined. Grappling with the entangled feelings of desperation and resentment, Mia made a decision: she must confront him. The weight of her family's legacy urged her forward. Questions loomed over her like storm clouds. Would Greg understand? What truths would come to light in the fiery confrontation that awaited them? And what if their past now revealed could tear her apart? The stakes were higher than ever, and Mia had no choice but to plunge headfirst into the tumultuous unknown. Mia paced in her small kitchen, the once comforting space now suffocating with uncertainty. The aroma of her family's recipes mingled unsettlingly with her growing anxiety. Outside, the vibrant chatter of customers provided a stark contrast to the turmoil inside her mind. Could she really confront Greg and demand a reckoning? The past days had been a maelstrom of emotions. Every notification from social media felt like another jab in her heart, each comment puncturing her once unshakable confidence. She could either let the fear consume her or reclaim her voice. Perhaps discovering her true self in all this chaos was exactly what she needed. Fueled by a blend of anger and determination, Mia pulled out a notebook, a time-worn artifact from her childhood. The pages brimmed with her mother's handwritten recipes, the only constant in the tempest. As she flipped through them, each dish conjured a memory, of her mother's gentle guidance, her father's laughter, and the joy of cooking as a family. She drew strength from those memories, a deep-rooted defiance kindling inside her. Mia could feel the weight of her ancestors pushing her forward. They had faced their struggles head-on, and she wouldn't bury their legacy beneath Greg's words. No, she would not be silenced. The thought of reclaiming her narrative ignited her resolve. She picked up her phone and dialed the number she had memorized through the years. Greg's office. As the line rang, she ran a mental checklist of what she wanted to say. Timing was critical, too aggressive, and she risked losing him. Too meek, and she would forget her intention. She had to be strategic. When Greg answered, his tone was cool, detached, the very embodiment of corporate superiority. A slight quiver of uncertainty tugged at her, but she pushed it aside. "Greg, can we meet? I need to talk to you about the review." "I'm busy," he replied curtly, the dismissive tone making her feel small, like a gust of wind against a mountain. But she wasn't going to back down. Her family's recipes deserved more than an offhand critique. "Please, it's important. It's about more than food." Silence loomed over the line before he relented, agreeing to meet at the cafe down the street that had once been a family favorite. Mia hung up, heart racing but exhilarated. She had taken the first step in reclaiming her agency. She was ready to confront the past and challenge the future. In the hours leading to their meeting, however, self-doubt crept back in like an unwelcome guest. What if their past cut deeper than she anticipated? Greg and his family had watched hers falter while they thrived, a testament to how the remnants of their shared history weighed heavy on them both. Would the confrontation shatter the fragile, unsteady ground she stood upon? As she arrived at the cafe, the familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee assaulted her senses, grounding her nervous energy. She spotted Greg seated at a table, his broad shoulders hunched over his phone. Dressed impeccably in a sharp suit, he exuded an aura of confidence that made her heart flutter with anxiety. Taking a deep breath, Mia squared her shoulders and approached, the weight of her family's legacy pushing her forward. This was her moment of truth. She was no longer just a food truck girl. She was a mother's daughter, a keeper of family traditions. With trembling hands, she recalled the lessons learned from her family: determination, courage, and a dash of resilience. The moment of truth was upon them. "Mia," Greg said, glancing up as she reached the table. "What's this about?" Their eyes locked, and in that instant, she realized this confrontation would unlock everything, a pivotal shift in her narrative. "Let us talk about who we really are," Mia said, her voice steady as she took a seat, ready to unveil not just her story but perhaps a reflection he had long avoided. The air between them crackled with tension, the atmosphere thick with unanswered questions as she prepared to reclaim her narrative, no matter the outcome. What truths lay in wait? Would this meeting finally bridge the gap between their lives, or would it bring more chaos? The air hung thick with unsaid words as Mia settled into her chair, summoning every ounce of courage she could muster. She combated the familiar urge to shrink back, to retreat into the background where she felt safe. But safety had gotten her nowhere, and today she would risk everything to claim her space in this conversation. "Greg, I know things haven't always been easy between us," she began, her voice surprisingly calm. "Our families have a long history, and I feel it's time to address the shadows that loom over us." He watched her with a detached expression, one eyebrow raised slightly in skepticism. "Shadows, Mia? That's quite an ominous start." There it was, the dismissive tone she had braced herself for. It stung, but she pressed on, steadying herself. "You've commented on my food, my business, but you've never considered the story behind it. It's not just a food truck, Greg, it's my family's legacy. Every dish I serve has a history." A flicker of something crossed Greg's face, a glimmer of recognition, perhaps. She leaned in, the years of hurt ready to spill into the space between them. "My mother taught me to cook so that I could carry on her traditions. When you review my work, you're not just critiquing recipes, you're critiquing my identity. I'm not asking for your validation, I'm demanding you acknowledge the effort and heritage that go into every bite." For a moment, he remained silent, his stare losing some of its cool detachment. Was he really hearing her? Why is it so hard for you to see that? Mia pressed. Why does my success threaten you? His expression darkened slightly, shadows gathering in the corners of his eyes. You don't understand the pressures at play, Mia. It's not just about your food. There are expectations, standards. She interrupted him. Standards set by whom? People who don't know the first thing about familial love or the sacrifices behind each recipe. You're missing the entire point of what food represents. The intensity in the air shifted. Mia could feel a crack forming in the wall he'd built around himself. There was a moment, a heartbeat, where it felt as if they were both teetering on the edge of a significant revelation. I knew your family. Your mother and I. His gaze drifted off as if he were lost in a memory. I knew her better than you think. His words hung there, heavy with implications. Did he mean to say he understood her struggles? Or was this just a tactic to deflect her confrontation? What do you mean, knew her better? She pressed, curiosity mingling with the anxiety that coursed through her. You're part of the reason she lost her storefront. Your family was always in the right place at the right time. While my family struggled, you thrived. Greg shifted uncomfortably, his mask momentarily slipping. It wasn't like that. For the first time, Mia saw a glimpse of vulnerability in him. She hesitated. The fire of confrontation felt dampened, but her resolve hardened. She hadn't come this far to let pity sway her course. Then tell me the truth, Greg. Don't give me a corporate line. I want honesty. If you knew my mother, then you owe it to her and to me to speak plainly. The challenge lingered in the air, thick with unspoken truths. She had captured his attention, but would this boldness bring understanding or further incite his defensiveness? The cafe hummed with the lively chatter of other patrons, oblivious to the confrontation unfolding in the corner booth. Mia fought to quiet the noise in her head, reminded of her purpose. This was her battle for family honor, for validation, and for her future. As Greg opened his mouth to speak, the weight of anticipation coiled tightly in her stomach. She strained to catch his words, to unravel the truths that had the power to change the trajectory of their conversation and potentially, their lives. Would he finally unlock the door to the past that had long tormented them both, or would it remain firmly shut, leaving her with more unanswered questions than when she had arrived? Let me tell you what really happened, he began, voice low and earnest, drawing her in like a moth to a flame. But the opening could lead them both to a reckoning, one that would forever alter how they viewed each other. What secrets lurked in Greg's past, and how would they reshape Mia's pursuit of reclaiming her narrative? Mia held her breath, searching Greg's eyes for the truth that felt just out of reach. The cafe buzzed around them, but the world had narrowed down to this singular moment. She leaned forward, every nerve ending alive with anticipation, ready to absorb whatever Greg had to say. The gravity of his confession seemed to pull at her, demanding her full attention. I knew your mother well, he said slowly, as if carefully selecting each word. She was talented, passionate, and always feared that her traditions would be lost in the shuffle of a changing world. His voice faltered. But there's more to it. Your family struggles were not solely the result of competition. There were decisions made by both our families. Mia was stunned. Families intertwined by history, competitive and yet intricately linked in ways she hadn't understood fully. She clutched the edge of the table, the texture grounding her as his words spiraled through her thoughts. What do you mean by that? She knew she should keep her voice steady, but the tremor betrayed her. Your mother's dreams clashed with mine and my father's ambitions, Greg continued, his tone edged with regret. There were choices we made to secure our future. I never wanted to be the antagonist to your story, but here we are. My family's rise came at the expense of yours. The vulnerability in Greg's eyes made Mia pause. The frustration she felt began to mingle with a faint drizzle of empathy. For years, she had seen him as a one-dimensional adversary, an obstacle standing in the way of her legacy, but now he appeared raw, nearly haunted. "I never asked for any of that," Mia snapped, the anger surging back. "You've had the privilege of never having to fight for your place. While your family thrived, there were countless moments lost for mine. We didn't just lose a storefront, we lost connections, roots, everything." Greg looked defeated. "I know. And I can't change what happened, but I wish I could go back and do things differently." She didn't want to care, didn't want to give in to the notion of shared pain, yet a gust of realization washed over her. This argument was no longer just about competition or recognition, it was about legacy, a shared thread of loss and compromise. Greg continued, "What I realized too late is that success doesn't come from thriving at the expense of others. It's about lifting each other up." The tension in the air shifted once again, something had cracked between them. Mia felt the weight of her family's history and her mother's dreams pressing down on her, and for a fleeting moment, she considered the delicate balance of forgiveness. But could she really allow this revelation to reshape her narrative? "Are you trying to manipulate me?" She searched his eyes, looking for a flicker of deceit. "Are you just trying to absolve yourself?" "No," he insisted, his voice earnest. "I want to offer my support now, not hinder your growth. You deserve to carve out your space in this industry without the chains of our family's past weighing you down." The cafe hummed on, unaware of the drama playing out with such intensity at one corner table. Doubt wrestled within Mia. Was she ready to embrace the possibility of a future where she could harness her family's legacy without this history holding her hostage? Mia's heart raced at the notion of an alliance, however tenuous, with the man she had long seen as her foe. The stakes had escalated. Her next move could either reinforce the walls she had built around herself or invite an unexpected collaboration that could redefine her path. "Maybe it's time," she whispered, considering the weight of not just her own choices but those of their families. "But before we discuss anything further, I need to know what else is buried in this history." Greg's gaze sharpened, revealing a resolve that matched her own determination. "There's more, Mia. And it's time you understood the whole truth." As he leaned closer, she felt the excitement of discovery coursing through her veins. What revelations lay ahead that could either solidify her resolve or dismantle the very foundations of her journey? Would the answers he provided open the door to a future she couldn't even begin to envision? Mia's heart thumped in her chest, the anticipation swelling as she forced herself to remain focused on Greg. "Tell me," she urged, a combination of desperation and determination pushing her forward. Each word felt like a step deeper into an intricate maze, where the walls shifted with every revelation. Greg remained silent for a moment, weighing the gravity of what lay ahead. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "Your mother and my father had a falling out over a business proposal, a chance to open a concept that represented both our cultures. It could have united our families, but pride got in the way." Her vision was dismissed, overshadowed by ambition. What was that vision? Mia leaned in, her skepticism battling with a thirst for understanding. She wanted to hear the details, to know how the past had shaped her present. Perhaps cultivating this knowledge could be the key to shaping her future on her own terms. A cafe that honored traditional cooking methods while introducing innovative flavors, he explained, urgency creeping into his tone. She wanted it to be a space where people from different backgrounds could learn from each other, breaking down the barriers that our families had erected. But my father saw it as a threat, believing it would dilute our brand. Mia absorbed each word, the pieces of her mother-south dreams clicking into place like a long-ignored puzzle. "And you? What did you want?" Greg shifted uncomfortably, a shadow passing over his features. "I wanted to help her, but I was torn. My father's expectations loomed large. I chose loyalty to my family over what I knew was right. It tormented me for years." The weight of his confession pressed heavily on her chest. Mia's mind raced ways to harness her mother's unfulfilled dream mingled with thoughts of revenge on the family that had encumbered her path. But was vengeance really what she wanted? Was she prepared to launch her career as a countermove against Greg's success, or could she actually see this as an opportunity for growth? "Do you think there's still a chance to create that cafe?" she asked, the vulnerability of her aspirations surfacing amid the chaos of emotions. "Have we missed the moment?" "No," he shook his head with conviction. "It's never too late. The world needs that vision now more than ever, fusion so deeply interwoven with heritage. But we have to be realistic. It would mean collaborating, working together despite the past." Each word he spoke felt like a tether to the future. The thought of uniting against their family sent a tremor of excitement through her. It was audacious, yet the potential for something meaningful burgeoned within. However, the reality of compromise lurked around every corner. "You really think our families would allow that?" Mia's voice was edged with doubt. "They've dictated so much already. Whatever we do might incite conflict." Greg's eyes met hers with a fierce intensity. "Yeah, they might. But what if we chose to be the architects of our paths? It would mean facing them, defying their narrative. Isn't that worth the risk?" Mia's heart raced at the idea. She hadn't considered this route before. The concept of agency over her legacy was intoxicating. The stakes had arched toward a new dawn, and every theme of her past collided with this moment of potential. "Let me think," she said, retreating inward. Could she honestly see beyond the immediate repercussions of challenging their families? A tight knot of apprehension twisted in her gut, but alongside it pulsed a flicker of hope. She needed time to digest, to really confront what this collaboration would mean not just professionally, but personally. History had penned a pained narrative between them, yet here lay the opportunity to rewrite it. Greg hesitated, sensing her uncertainty. "I don't want to push you. But the longer we wait, the more complicities and expectations will tangle around us." Mia took a deep breath. The urgency of the moment seized her. The void left by her mother's dreams begged to be filled, and perhaps, just perhaps, this was the way. As she discerned the path before her, another question tugged at her thoughts. What would it mean for her to lead a venture anchored in unity, considering the shadows of betrayal hovering above both families? She met Greg's gaze again, determination settling within her. The challenge loomed before them, yet she felt a surge of clarity. "Then let's talk options," she said, her voice firm but measured. But just as she began to outline her vision, Greg's expression shifted, his eyes widening. "Wait, there's something else you need to know first. Something that could change everything about your family's history." Mia's breath caught. What more could there possibly be, and how deep did the layers of history run? Each new revelation threatened to push her further into uncharted territory, yet she stood on the edge, unafraid of what lay beyond. Mia's heart raced, a mix of fear and intrigue. What could Greg possibly have to share that would unravel the narrative of her family? She sensed the weight of history pressing upon them both, ready to implode with a single revelation. "Go on," she urged, her fingers curling around the edge of the table as if it were a lifeline. She was on the precipice of understanding something monumental, possibly game-changing. "There's an old family document, a letter," Greg started hesitantly. "It's believed to outline the terms of the original business proposal your mother presented. But it went missing after the feud. I found it a few months ago." Mia's mind raced as Greg spoke. "Missing? How did you come to find it?" "While sorting through my father's archives," he admitted, guilt swirling in his gaze. "It was buried under years of neglect, but when I saw her name, I couldn't help but take a closer look. I was desperate to understand the connection between our families." Greg pulled out his phone, swiping through images until he found one that made Mia's breath hitch. The document was an old, faded letter bearing her mother's elegant handwriting, speaking passionately about flavors, inclusion, and culture. Her heart swelled with a profound sense of loss and missed opportunities. What does it say? Her voice was almost a whisper as she wrestled with the emotions bubbling inside her. It talks about a vision that was far grander than just a cafe, he replied, his voice cracking under the weight of his words. Your mother believed this place could be the heart of a community. She envisioned cooking classes, cultural events, and a rotating menu that highlighted the best of both heritages. It wasn't just about food, it was about creating a legacy. Mia's thoughts raced, merging her desire to honor her mother with her need for professional success. The potential of her mother's vision was rippling through her, beckoning her closer. If we could bring this back, would it really bridge the rift between our families? Or just deepen it? Only if we let it, Greg said firmly, his eyes piercing hers. But if we do this right from a place of integrity, we can carve out a path that defies their expectations. We're not those kids anymore, swayed by their quarrels. This is our future we're talking about. Mia considered his words, feelings of empowerment rising within her. Could she truly step into her mother's shoes? The prospect was both exhilarating and terrifying. Her resolve wavered as she envisioned the sacrifices that lay ahead, but the possibility of growth called to her, daring her to embrace uncertainty. You're right, she finally said, the words solidifying her commitment. But how do we actually go about making this happen? It feels almost impossible. Greg's expression transformed, a glimmer of excitement igniting in his eyes. We start by gathering a team of people who understand the vision and who are willing to work with us. We'll need investors too, but remember that letter? It has the emotional weight that could help us attract those who resonate with her legacy. Mia let out a shaky breath, her mind churning with plans and logistics. The obstacles ahead loomed, but they no longer appeared insurmountable. They would have to navigate their family's expectations and business politics, but beneath it all, the foundation of their collaboration could blossom into something greater. Let us meet again, discuss the details, she proposed, her voice steadying. We'll need to map this out. And I need to dig deeper into my family's history. There might be more connections we can leverage. Just as they began brainstorming, a sudden thought struck Mia. What about your father? Do you think he'll oppose this? Greg stiffened for a moment, the shadow of familial loyalty creeping back into his demeanor. He has always been protective of the family legacy, but I'll confront him about it. If I truly believe in this, I can't let my past dictate my future. Not anymore. Mia felt an electric pulse of determination jump between them. This was at the moment the narrative shifted, not only for their families but for themselves. As they finalized plans for their next meeting, Greg seemed to hesitate, as if there was more he wanted to say. We should be prepared for backlash, he warned, his voice low again. Things might get complicated. Let them come, Mia replied firmly, the resolve hardening within her. She realized now that the challenge was not just against their families, but against the limitations she had placed on herself. Driven by newfound purpose, she closed her eyes briefly, envisioning a future where creativity blossomed and tradition was honored. But question marks loomed just beyond the horizon. Was she truly ready to shake the very foundations of everything she knew? As they parted ways that evening, a terrifying thrill coursed through her veins. The adventure was just beginning, and a single thought echoed in her mind: what if confronting her family's past leads to an even darker truth about who she really was? Mia stood in her small kitchen, a space cluttered with mismatched utensils and remnants of half-finished dishes. The warm glow of the morning sun filtered through the window, yet it did little to ease the growing unease coiling in her stomach. Ideas swirled around her like a tempest, and beneath the excitement lay an undercurrent of profound self-doubt. Could she truly bring her mother's vision to life, not just as a tribute but as a bold new chapter for her family? The business plan they had started to outline drew closer in her mind, yet conflicting thoughts ricocheted between her ambition and fears. What if the legacy was too burdensome? What if her cooking skills, long dormant, weren't up to par with the expectations? Mia couldn't shake the feeling that the lioness of her mother's dream was both a guide and a ghost, a shadow that loomed larger with every decision she had to make. She paced the floor, trying to formulate a strategy. How could she structure a team that would not only bring creative flair but also have a fierce commitment to the vision of cultural intersection that her mother had penned so passionately? Knowing that everything hinged on clarity of purpose, Mia grabbed her notepad. Pen in hand, she began jotting down names of people she admired in the culinary world, chefs she had met at workshops or suppliers who had sparked meaningful conversations about authenticity in food, but, amidst her scribbles, uncertainty clawed at her. For every name she added to her list, a mental counter-argument surfaced. What are you thinking? You barely know these people. Their potential would only be unlocked if she could bring them together. But without the solid foundation of financial backing and a compelling narrative, would they even take her seriously? She halted her pacing, taking a deep breath to still the thoughts tumbling through her mind. What did her mother focus on when the world felt out of control? Wasn't he at the art of connection through cooking, creating community around food? Perhaps it was time to detach from the monumental reputation she felt she had to uphold and instead focus on authenticity. The fear of navigating her family's past should not shadow her pursuit of innovation. Fueled by newfound self-determination, she typed out a quick but heartfelt email to Greg outlining her current plan of action. Let us meet to identify specific roles within the team and address our fears. We have work to do, she wrote, hoping to strike a tone of collaboration devoid of doubt. Then, the reality loomed larger as a reply came in swiftly. I have an idea that ties in beautifully with your mother's legacy, one I think might resonate with both our families. Heart pounding, Mia leaned close to her screen. Greg's willingness to embrace creativity ignited a flicker of excitement. What was he suggesting? Her mind raced, and soon she found herself enveloped in the possibilities. Imagining vibrant dishes that blended their cultures, she envisioned a menu that didn't just tell a story but tasted like one. But anticipation was tinged with fear. If they succeeded, could she maintain her vision against the entrenched ideas her family had about success? Amidst the encouragement of the thought, the specter of Greg's father surfaced again. The potential of resistance from him flickered ominously in her mind, reminding her of the rifts that history had forged. She wouldn't just be shaking the foundations of her own identity but also striking at the very heart of familial loyalty. Feeling the weight of her ancestors pressing down, Mia stood in front of the window, the sun casting shadows over her work. Would she have the courage to confront both her past and the prospects of her future? Her phone buzzed, a reminder that the world outside continued to spin, unaware of her internal struggle. There it was, the unyielding pull of commitment. This might be the moment, she whispered to herself, pride swelling against the tide of uncertainty. Mia hesitated before finally texting Greg back. I'm in. Let us face it all together. But as she put down her phone, doubts crept in once more. The memory of certain words echoed ominously. What if you fail? Suddenly, she felt the stakes rise exponentially, not just for herself, but for everyone who had once believed in her mother's dream. The thought vexed her, and she realized how deeply entwined her success was with her family's past. Ready or not, she was stepping into a conflict of her own making, one that would test her resolve like never before. Just as the light dimmed outside, a chilling thought surfaced. What if uncovering her family's past led her to a truth she wasn't prepared to face? The next day dawned with a rare clarity, cutting through the fog of uncertainty that had enveloped Mia. As she brewed her morning coffee, the pull of determination tugged at her. She could no longer afford to hide behind fear. The urgency of Greg's message lingered. What could possibly tie our families together? She muttered to herself, grappling with the unformed concept swelling in her mind. She pushed aside the chaos of her cluttered kitchen, focusing instead on the possibilities that lay ahead. Her mother's legacy, once a shroud of obligation, now flickered with the light of potential to fuse her greatest fears with her boldest ambitions. Mia turned to her notepad, her previous lists of potential team members seeming inadequate now. This wasn't just a culinary project, it was a narrative that needed deep, authentic connections. Jotting down ideas, she considered individuals who could truly understand the intersection of their culinary worlds, the bridge between her mother's heritage and Greg's aspirations. Her heart raced as she entailed each person, envisioning their contributions, but then, the familiar weight of self-doubt settled in once again. You don't know if they will be committed, her inner voice echoed, tighter this time. The fear struck deep. What if they were only interested in the idea and not in her vision? Would they consider her a small-town dreamer? Just as quickly, Mia recalled her mother's unwavering belief in the power of food to transcend barriers. That challenge was part of the creative process. Could she, too, lean into that spirit and step outside the narrow confines of her own expectations? With a flicker of resolve, she picked up her phone, scrolling through her contacts to find familiar names: Sarah, a food stylist with an eye for storytelling; Anika, a pastry chef whose interpretations of traditional recipes were spellbinding; Marco, a supplier with stories as rich as his spices. Each person had a unique voice that could enhance their project. It was time to reach out. Typing and deleting, she crafted messages that invited collaboration rather than authority. This wasn't about leading a team, it was about creating a symphony of shared dreams. I want to gather a group of us to brainstorm ideas, she wrote, hitting send with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Having taken the first step, Mia burst out of her cognitive paralysis, focusing her energy on strategies for their initial meeting. She envisioned a pop-up evening where everyone would bring a dish reflecting their background, their shared cultural tapestry. This would not only help her gauge everyone's perspective but might also spark an early sense of unity. What we're doing is more than just cooking, it's crafting a narrative of who we are culturally, she reflected as she sat back, surprised at how the ideas flowed. Later that day, as she eagerly awaited replies, Greg's message appeared again, this time with a more detailed idea. What if we incorporate our family stories into the menu? My grandmother had a secret recipe I think could blend beautifully with your mom's dishes. Mia paused to read the words, an unexpected thrill tingling in her spine. The vision of a menu that represented a lineage of food stories told through the ingredients drew her in completely. Yet, doubt loomed just at the edges. Was it right to blend their histories so intimately, to risk making her mother's memories vulnerable? Closing her eyes, she took a deep breath, decided to keep exploring. The risk is worth the reward, Mia concluded, a mantra echoing from the depths of her resolve. It was time to confront the complex tapestry of her family's history, no matter what truths might emerge. As night fell, her thoughts danced around her memories, and visions of the food truck she'd conjured began to take shape. The very next day would promise revelations she had yet to confront, but for tonight, she stood at the edge of possibility, heart racing. Tomorrow, she would challenge herself to confront the ghosts lurking in the shadows of her family's past and face the revelations hidden within her own heart. What truths awaited her in the unraveling of a legacy? The following day dawned heavy with anticipation, each hour stretching Mia's resolve thinner. As she prepared her space for the planned gathering, she sensed an almost electric undercurrent pulsing through her thoughts. The air was thick with lingering questions about her lineage and her mother's legacy, the very essence of who she was, beginning to collide with the ambitious vision she had started to nurture. With every dish arranged meticulously, Mia found a bittersweet thrill in the activity. Each ingredient, each utensil held a story. They were not mere objects, but relics of memories, trembling on the brink of their narrative debut. Yet, with each stroke of her flour-dusted hands, she confronted the internal tide of uncertainty that surfaced. What if the past I unearth is too heavy for the future I'm building? She brushed the thought aside, a fleeting shadow of hesitation lost amidst the clattering of pans and muffled music echoing from her phone. The responses from her friends had trickled in. Each enthusiastic reply bolstered her courage, igniting hope. Sarah confirmed her attendance with hints of unique edibles, while Anika promised delicacies that would blend joy with nostalgia. Each confirmation felt like a rhythmic heartbeat pulsing life into her plan. However, the thought of Greg's message loomed ominously in the backdrop, that blend of culinary narratives begging to be explored while simultaneously threatening her sense of identity. The hour of convergence approached, and she found herself staring into her reflection adorned in a simple apron, her hair hastily tied up. What was it about her appearance that felt inadequate? Was it the lack of polished polish or the trepidation of vulnerability? She questioned herself incessantly. But beneath the relentless self-scrutiny, a flicker of determination burned brighter. As the doorbell rang, Mia's heart raced, propelling her to the entryway. The moment she opened the door, the energy shifted. Sarah's laughter poured in, Anika's vibrant expressions lit up the dimly lit kitchen. Marco's easy confidence filled the space like a familiar aroma wafting from a beloved dish. They brought more than just food, they carried stories and histories, pieces of themselves that would echo through the shared meal. Mia watched as they interacted, how they infused life into her vision, molding it into something tangible. As the evening unfurled, she revealed the nuances of her mother's culinary legacy, allowing her voice to guide them while also stepping back and encouraging their contributions. "Imagine blending our dishes with the stories that shaped us," she breathed during the brainstorming, eyes brimming with fervor. They energized her idea, layering it with anecdotes about family meals, traditions that reverberated with laughter or hardship, yet a brittle thread of insecurity wove through the fabric of her excitement. As they prepared to share their respective dishes, she hesitated. The moment had arrived to reveal her mother's secret recipe, a dish steeped in emotions and memories, carrying the weight of generations. What if my truth is too raw? What if they don't resonate? Pushing through, Mia took a deep breath and began to share the story behind the dish. It was not just food, it was her mother's legacy, a connection to heritage she feared would rupture. As she spoke, the weight of her vulnerability settled around her shoulders, both freeing and frightening at once. Would they judge her, or would they understand? After the sharing, the room soaked in a reverent silence, and she wondered if the fragile threads of her anxiety had unwound enough for acceptance or if they had merely tangled further in doubt. Then Greg appeared at the door, unannounced. His presence injected an unexpected tension into the gathering, his eyes scanning the warmth and familiarity shared among Mia and her friends. The mixture of excitement and anxiety tightened in Mia's chest. "Sorry I'm late," Greg exclaimed, his smile cutting through the unease, but the underlying currents remained. She had to confront him and the consequences of what might unfold. With the evening's energy tangling around her like the rich aromas of their dishes, Mia understood that the convergence of these stories would expose more than just culinary connections, they might reveal the unspoken truths of her heart. As the laughter ignited around the table, she pondered if she was ready for the impending conversations. It was about more than just food now, it was about her identity, a blend of past, present, and future. Little did she know, the revelation that awaited her on this transformative night could forever alter the trajectory of her dream and leave her questioning everything she thought she understood about her family's legacy. The breathtaking aroma enveloped Mia as the evening progressed, surroundings pulsating with warmth and laughter. The initial concern of Greg entering this intimate circle began to fade, overpowered by the genuine camaraderie blossoming among friends, each one a keeper of stories connected to the flavors they created. It struck her that food, in its essence, bore no grudges, and tonight, perhaps, she could take that lesson to heart. Mia positioned herself at the head of the table, reflecting on the courage it took to share her mother's recipe, her voice now imbued with the strength she had unearthed through their gathering. The clinking of utensils harmonized with her heartbeat as she watched her friends devour her signature dish, a watery gaze of nostalgia weaving through their expressions. "Your mother's guacamole tacos are incredible, Mia. I can't believe how rich the flavors are," Anika exclaimed, laughter blending with her admiration. "You've created something truly special here, and it almost feels like she's with us." That statement washed over Mia like a wave of comfort. In that moment, the burden she had carried transformed into belonging, her family's legacy was honored, not shamed. It no longer felt like a loss but rather a bridge connecting past with present. The defining moment came when Greg, who had observed quietly until now, leaned forward, his tone earnest. "I can't help but admire what you've done here. Your mother would be proud." Her heart stuttered, perhaps there was redemption to be found amid shared stories. His acknowledgement invited resolve, diluting the barriers built over years of miscommunication and misunderstandings. "Wait," Mia suddenly interjected, her pulse racing as excitement fluttered in her chest. "What if we take this further? If we fuse our cultures, we could complete her vision." A spark ignited in the room, vibrant ideas dancing across the table like flames of inspiration. "What if we create a series of pop-up events featuring dishes that celebrate our combined heritages?" Sarah added, enthusiasm rippling through the room. As camaraderie flourished, Mia saw the potential transforming from plans into roots setting deeply within the fabric of their community. It was a chance not only for culinary exploration but also for healing connections slowly entwining through shared experiences and resilience. Greg nodded in agreement, enthusiasm lighting up his features. "Let us brainstorm how we can attract investors and promote the idea. This is more than just a food venture, it's a shared legacy that deserves recognition." Heat pulsed through Mia, surging with an energy she had never thought possible when this day began. With each idea bounced back and forth, confidence seeped into her core. She was more than the product of her past, she was the architect of her destiny. As laughter ricocheted off the walls and clear plans began to form, a flicker of vulnerability in the air told Mia that they were still unloading heavy baggage. Memories of competition hung uncomfortably, yet, they were now blank pages waiting to be rewritten through collaboration. "Before we dive deeper, we need to clarify our vision," Mia spoke, her heart pounding with urgency. "This is more than just food, it represents healing for our families." The moment felt monumental as all eyes turned to her, and she wondered if the shadows of history could finally yield to brighter aspirations. "I want to hear everyone's thoughts on how we can craft this narrative together, honoring our heritages while celebrating our future." Then something shifted. "I think we should take this a step forward and document our journey," Greg proposed, meeting her gaze with a sincere determination. "A series that outlines not only our culinary creations but our stories. It could serve as a medium to showcase our family's pasts while forging stronger ties going forward." The weight of that suggestion felt significant. This wasn't merely about food, it was personal and collective, a canvas where old scars could be transformed into enduring colors. Mia's spirit soared as excitement rippled through her, entwining with a newfound clarity. Here lay an opportunity to illuminate the intricacies of culture and legacy, offering understanding over animosity. It was the beginning of an authentic chapter where her family's past skepticism could evolve into support. With a fire rekindled within, Mia smiled at her friends, summoning a depth of sincerity she realized had long lain dormant. "We all deserve to know this story. Not just for our families but for ourselves. Let us make this our legacy." The sense of purpose sung through the room, unifying them in a precious understanding that transcended their pasts. Together, they would carve a path allowing authenticity to shine. Mia marveled at her transformation. She had found her voice amid confusion, woven her story through collaboration, and taken ownership of her narrative. To balance the past with what lay ahead was a daunting challenge, but with every heartbeat in alignment, she felt fascination grow instead of fear. As everything settled and plans unfurled into something substantial for the first time, Mia realized she wasn't simply a girl running a food truck anymore. She had embraced her family legacy, reclaimed her identity, and was stepping into a future waiting to be crafted with conviction and love. Mia's heart swelled with pride as she looked around. She consciously tethered her vision to the spirit of her mother, who had faced so much herself. The potential for profound change invigorated her. They were not just dreaming. She was now grounded with a clear direction, a collective venture echoing with authenticity and layered stories, nurturing the roots of her culinary family tree while forging a new path. With a firm resolve, Mia concluded that in honoring the past while remaining fiercely present, she could celebrate not only her mother's beloved recipes, but also craft a narrative that intertwined futures, reminding them that legacy is built upon both courage and shared stories. As they shared laughter and peppered each other with ideas, Mia realized the truth: she had conquered her fears, and through collaboration, transformed hardship into strength. Now was the moment to share this revelation and lift each other up with renewed vigor. This was Mia's chance to surge ahead and carve out her legacy. She envisioned the joy her mother would feel as she leaned back, watching everything unfold. And dare she say, with the whispers of their ancestors guiding them, this was just the beginning. Now is the time for you to join this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support storytelling that matters. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.